All right, folks, now that we have Packet Tracer open, I went ahead and I went to the File Open menu, and I had downloaded the PKA file, the Packet Tracer file, from our core shell and opened it up. You'll notice that inside that file there are some pre-configured items, 4 LED lights, and a desktop, a server, and a switch. Those 3 items are already connected together. Part of what we're going to do here is we're going to follow the instruction set, which also opened up, to basically connect up a solar panel, a battery, and a power controller that will be connected to the network and also connected to the lights. And if we do it all correctly, all the connections will talk to each other and the lights will light up.
Okay, I finally made it now.
All right. One tip that somebody did point out with the instruction sets that open is that if you want, you can click the little dock button and that'll put it in a side-by-side mode. So that might be helpful for what we're doing here. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. Normally what I do is I move this over to my second screen though, which I mentioned when the recording was paused. All right, so we're doing this process of connecting up this gear, and you do find your gear in these little panels down here, and there's a kind of, they're categorized. And our first instruction says that we need to add a solar panel, a battery, and a power meter that can be found under End Devices Power Grid. So first we got to go to this top panel. You'll notice that there's End Devices is the second icon, so click on that. And then the bottom panel, all the way to the right, is Power Grid. And then as you kind of filter, I mean, these are basically filters for categories, folks. It'll show you the available devices. We do want a solar panel, so you'll see the solar panel is this one. And how do you know what it is? Well, when you hover over it, the name changes in the bottom down here, right? So we want a solar panel, so I'm going to grab that. I'm going to just drag it and put it on the screen. Don't worry about where it lands for right now. I mean, ultimately, you'll make it look like the document. If you want, you can match that layout, or you can make your own. As long as you can see where the stuff is and you can see the connections is really kind of what it's all about. I do like the layout that they used. It wasn't the same one I did when I first tried it, honestly, because I wasn't looking at that graphic. So I'll put my solar panel over here to the left. The other one they want is a battery device. Well, that's this, right? So that's the one with the little green things on it. And then we're going to put that over on the right-hand side. And then they also want a power meter. And I think that's this white one here, the white box. So I'm going to drag that one and we'll put that kind of in the middle. If you notice that, like how they did their layout, they kind of like took their LEDs and kind of put them kind of in a semicircle, kind of like that. And you can do that if you want. You can click and drag and move. You can also go in there and rename the objects if you wish. You know, you can do all sorts of stuff to them. But we're going to operate on kind of a basic level at this point. All right. All right, so we just completed steps A, B, and C. Now they're asking us to do step D. And step D says, using IoT custom cables, connect the solar panel and the battery to the power meter according to the table below. The IoT custom cable can be found under connections. And so what they're really doing with the bold text, you guys, is pointing you to the right spot, right? So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to look at first the top level category, and it wasn't components, connections, right? So it told us to go to the connections. So here's connections, the little lightning bolt. And then at the bottom, right, well, we have structured cabling and connections. Okay, so we're in the right category. Then here on the right, there's a bunch of different options. And as you hover, it tells you what they are. But the second last one, which is just a black line, says IoT custom cable. So click on that. Now you notice it puts a little like slash through it, whatever, but that means it's ready to be dragged onto the screen. And really, you're not dragging it onto the screen like the solar panel and other stuff, but notice I move my mouse up and it turns into this like weird cabling icon. And what we're going to do then is we're going to connect from the solar panel to the power meter. And so so here's what's going to happen is I'm going to click on the solar panel. It will show me a list of available ports, a little pop-up. So I'm going to select D0 and then drag over to the power meter port and click. And then if you notice the table, it says connected to port D0. So I'm choosing D0. So however many ports or connections the device has, that'll pop up in a little panel. All right. I'll do that one more time now, but this time I will connect the battery from D0 on the battery to port D1 on the power controller. So click on IoT custom cable, click on the battery. Notice how the battery's got a bunch of ports. We're going to choose D0 because that's what we were told to do. Click on the power meter and choose D1. Notice D0 went away because it's being used, right? So the unavailable ports disappear. Now we're going to move down to step E, and it says using IoT custom cables, same icon, connect the LEDs to the battery according to the table below, right? So we're going to go LED 1 through 4, and then those are going to go to ports 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the same port number as the LED. So once again, we'll use that custom cable, the second last icon. We'll go from the LED, right? It's only got one port, so you have to choose that one. You notice how they didn't tell you that. You got to kind of sort of figure some of it out by yourself. But we're going to go from LED 1 to port 1. And then we're just going to repeat that process. So port LED 2 to port 2. LED 3 to port 3. And then finally, LED 4 over to port 4. Right? And we're just following the steps that they're giving us. Now, I think it's interesting. We have this connection right now going. The IoT device, the solar panel, I don't know if you guys are watching the little meter here, but it's generating different amounts of power. So it's simulating generating power. Like right now it's generating nothing, then it generates 53 watts, then 170, then it changes. And as it's generating power, the power meter is collecting it and sending it over to the battery. So there's times when the battery has a charge and times when it doesn't. When the battery has a charge, the LEDs are lit. Right? Right now, this is a system that is not connected to the network or the internet. Right now, it's just connected to itself. And most solar systems, by the way, work like that. So like you have a panel, a controller, and a battery, and then you plug your stuff into the battery or another device to get the juice. Okay, so that's the first part. All right. Let's go to step F, and it says since packet tracer devices are wireless by default, you can also change a couple of settings here. So this is kind of what the point is. So it says, since in packet tracer IoT devices are wireless by default, to cable an IoT device to the network, you need to change the network adapter, and that's what we're going to do. So what they're telling you is that a lot of IoT devices don't connect with cables. You know, so like for example, like if you got a Raspberry Pi and you want to put it on the internet, well, it's got Wi-Fi built in or Bluetooth, right? However, it also has an Ethernet port. And anybody who's like knows their networking typically understands that a plugged-in connection is always a better one. It's more stable. It's faster bandwidth. You know, a lot of more secure. A lot of advantages to it. So that's kind of what they're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to override that. So it says click the solar panel, right? So it brings up this box. Click the advanced button down in the corner. And then it turns on a bunch of other menu items that you weren't seeing before, right? We're going to click on the tab called IO config. So that's input output, if you're wondering, if you've never heard that term before. And they have these network adapters with these really weird names, and they mean different things. I'm assuming that this one is indicating that it's a Wi-Fi connecting adapter. what we want to do, we're told to switch to IoT NMCFE, which is the third one down. Okay. Now, what I discovered later is that this is the wrong choice, because later on in the exercise, they actually refer to a gigabit connection. So I'm kind of giving you guys the tip and saving you a little bit of heartache here. And I wonder sometimes if they're doing this intentionally to make it wrong to see if you can figure out how to fix it. But I'm telling you in advance so we can just save time. Choose the one that's got the G next to it instead of the F. So it's the fourth one down. And the functional difference is it's a gigabit Ethernet card as opposed to like a 10100. Right, so that's what we're choosing. And then we can close the panel. They want us to repeat this process now for the power meter and the battery. So let's do the power meter next. We'll click Advanced. We'll go to IO config. This time we'll choose the one they recommended, by the way. We won't choose gigabit on this. We'll just choose the one they recommended, which is the third one, the CFE one. And then we'll close the panel. It is a little disconcerting, I will tell you, that it doesn't have like a save button, but once you make the change, it's saved. That's how it works. Mac users are usually pretty comfortable with that. The Windows users always have to have an OK button. So now I'm on the battery, IO config, and I'm choosing CFE. All right, so now we just switch the network connector to a hardwired connector. All right, now we're going to select a different wire here, and it says using an Ethernet straight through cable, right? And one thing you'll notice is none of these say Ethernet straight through, right? They have crossover, fiber, phone, coax, whatever. And really the one that we want is copper straight through. So Ethernet cables, standard networking cables, use copper as their technology. And so we're going to do the same process. We're going to click on the device. So we're going to start with the solar panel. And it's going to list differently, right? So we have to choose the network adapter we have, which is the gigabit Ethernet. And we're going to go over to the switch and click, and they want us to connect to FA03. There it is. Then we're going to go to the power meter, do the same thing, copper straight through, power meter, fast Ethernet, up to the switch, and select number 4. All right, one question you might have is, could I select number 5? Well, they're telling you which ones to connect. And then, I don't know if you guys see this, but they have a check results button to see if you did it correctly. So it's better to follow their instructions. We'll do the same thing with the battery. Notice how the battery's got a few extra ports in there. We're choosing fast Ethernet though. Back over to the switch, and we're choosing fast Ethernet 5. All right. As you plug the stuff in, I want you to notice, like it's orange right now. I don't know if you saw the power meter just turned green. It takes a little while for the network to recognize it and basically connect to it. So eventually they should all turn green. It might take a little longer on your system. It just depends.
Okay.
I'm going to answer the question in the chat. Seth, the one you want to choose is the one that says copper straight through. Same difference, by the way.
Okay.
You see that?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Now I'm just realizing I failed to record all of that. Okay, so I'm going to just go through the process of repeating it really quick, you guys. I apologize. Hey, practice makes perfect, right? So what I did not record, you guys, is I did these steps here and I did not record them. So I'm just going to repeat them for the sake of the video. Click on your solar panel, click settings, click remote server, then type in this information and click connect. It'll say connecting, and then if you've connected successfully, it will say refresh. Repeat the same process with the power meter. So settings, IoT, remote server. Here's your IP address, username, password. Connect, connecting, refresh. And I'm sorry to do it so quickly, but sometimes I forget to unpause my recordings. Same thing, settings, IoT server, remote server, same credentials, and connect. All right. Now here's kind of the fun part, and this is they've done such a nice job with this packet tracer software, that we actually get to now use the system in a sense. So in other words, we can connect to the desktop computer that's in this network, bring up a web browser, and pull up a status panel from the server that shows all the devices working. So to kind of like simulate this. And so we want to go now down to the bottom here. So we're looking for network devices, and end devices is where we want to be. No, actually, I'm sorry. We're not adding a device. Brain fart. Sorry. Click on the desktop itself, and right here on the desktop tab. So you guys caught that, right? You click on the desktop computer, click on the desktop tab, and then you'll notice. And for me, it's top row, far right. There's a web browser. And then this simulates the web browser. So this is kind of like a primitive built-in web browser. And we want to go to the URL of the server, which is 1.0.0.1, and press enter. Of course, you have to log in. So the secure username and password of admin. Press enter to log in. And if you succeeded, right, you should see all three of your devices connected. So solar panel, power meter, and battery. The light should be green, and there should be the ability to expand the panels and look at their live output. Right. Now, they ask a couple of follow-up questions here, which I think are good to answer, right? So the idea is, as you guys build this, what you might want to do to prove that you got it to work is you could kind of arrange your screen kind of the way that I'm arranging mine right now, with the web browser open and active, showing the status and all the stuff on the screen, and take a screenshot. Now, I know some of you might be new to that process too, so I don't mean to belittle, like, if you don't know how to do a screenshot, but this is how I like to do it on Windows. Is I just go to my start menu, and I tend to use the snipping tool, right? And it brings up this little panel, right? And I'm going to select new. And the truth is, I could capture the whole screen, and that's probably adequate. I don't know if I really need to, but you notice my screen grays out a little bit, and then I'm going to click with the crosshairs, click and drag and highlight, like all the stuff I really need to see to prove that it's working, right? Now that's inside the snipping tool. Now, some people will actually save it as an image. I'm going to save you a little bit of heartache. You could do it that way and upload the image if you want as proof. But what I suggest that you do is just copy it. You can paste the image into the Word document. So like if you're working on this Word document, you could come in here and answer these questions, and then at the bottom here, just paste the image directly into the document. I'm not in editing mode, but you would, so now that I'm in editing mode, just go right to the bottom and paste it in, and I can see that it worked. I appreciate it if you do answer the other questions, but ultimately it's this that I'm looking for to show that it worked, right? And so, I'll be kind of loose on the homework on this. Ideally you would answer each one of these questions fully. How many devices are displayed in the page? 3. What are their names? You could list them. However, the diagram kind of shows that. So if you guys just want to upload even a blank Word document with a screenshot, that would be fine by me, or just the image, that's fine by me. I'm just like being official here. I know some of the other instructors that would teach this would be real sticklers about please answer every question completely. And I'll be real frank, I don't like to spend that much time grading. If it worked, you got it working, I'm good. The stuff works. And so just kind of be practical with that. Whatever works best for you. What I do want to do now is make sure that when you're all done with this, if you look at what's in Blackboard on how you're supposed to submit this, so if you want to be kind of official about this, the procedure is you would click on the title, but you should read the instructions. It says the deliverable will be the completed doc file, right? So it could be a doc with just the screenshot, or a doc with all the questions answered and the screenshot, and the completed PKA file, right? So let's go through the process. Let's say I'm done doing this document. I might go ahead and save it. My suggestion is you save it somewhere meaningful, like that, where you know to look for it, not in your downloads folder like I just did. Normally what I do, and I'm not going to give you guys a whole lesson on file management, but what I normally do is I either put it in my documents folder where I have like a gateway folder, and I might have a folder inside of here called like IoT connecting, perhaps, and then maybe I would have what is this, chapter 1, right? Maybe a folder for chapter 1. If you want to get like this detailed about it, you could do that, and then I could save my document here. When you go to save the PKA file, and I do suggest that you save it once you're all done, just come up to the menu here and just type save as, and then put that file in that same location, right? And what I might suggest, and you don't have to do this because you did download a starter version, and when it's done, you could just maybe add complete or add your name to it or whatever you wish. I don't have any specific file naming conventions. I think that's pretty draconian and silly, honestly, because when you upload it to Blackboard, I know who it came from, right? The other reason to upload both the PKA file and the Word document, frankly, is because then I have a backup copy in Blackboard. So let's say like you drop your laptop in the lake, and it blows up and you lost your files. Well, it's in Blackboard, so that's kind of the other reason to submit the file. Any questions on that process? I want to make sure that you guys get that thing. And that's going to be, like, whenever we do this packet tracer stuff, it's kind of going to be the standard. Answer the stuff in the document, show me a screenshot of, like, it working or the steps of building it, and then submit the file also. Because if I look at your document or your screenshot and go, this doesn't look like it's working, there's like, the green lights aren't flashing or whatever, then I can open up the file and check for myself, and then more importantly, see what's wrong and tell you so you can fix it, right? So the other thing that I will offer you guys, and I am recording this into the video, is if I do see that you did it wrong, and here's the caveat, but you turned it in on time. If you turned it in on time by the due date, I will give you the option to fix it with no late penalties, right? And often, if I see issues or mistakes, I will just say, hey, fix this or that and resubmit, get the rest of your points, right? And that's on you, whether or not you want to do that, so I know not a lot of instructors operate that way. My philosophy is maybe a little bit different from a more practical standpoint, because as a longtime IT person, whatever successes I've had doing it really were based on a lot of trial and error and making a lot of mistakes. And for me, making the mistake is part of the process of learning what not to do. So doesn't mean you're an idiot. You just clicked the wrong button, or you just didn't drag it the right way, or you typed the wrong thing in. It doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. In fact, doing it wrong often reinforces the correct way to do it much better than doing it correctly the first time and never having to fail. So don't ever feel bad if it doesn't work the first time or if you're stuck. So I just kind of put that out there. All right, folks, I'm going to end the recording here.